It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
What he meant to say was, welcome to the basement.
Oh God, we gotta shoot. We're just gonna roll with that.
Yeah, just roll with it.
All right.
Hey, you gotta have a blooper reel.
Welcome back to the basement, where it's obviously not top level content today from the lower level, but it is always top level content from the lower level. We said we was gonna deliver another conspiracy episode. We're gonna move on from the folklore for a little bit. We've done that for a little while. I had a great time with it. What about you guys?
Yeah, I did
Definitely.
too. I learned a lot about our own state, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. As you can see, the T-Gig and jersey is now framed in a makeshift frame.
A little crooked, but it's there.
It's a little crooked. The jersey's kind of hanging out, but you know what? It's the
Alien-
basement. It just fits.
Alien tape for the win, guys. Alien tape for the win.
And
Anyway.
honestly, while we're on the West Virginia folklore kick,
Yeah.
I was at Old School Grocery today getting drinks before the show. Shout out to Old School Grocery. There was this guy in front of me in line, and he ordered like 12 pepperoni rolls to take back to North Carolina because his family wanted to try them.
My man.
And I was like, I can't believe people really don't be eating this. Like,
Yeah, they are so good. Like,
and like I talked to the guy from Old School because like I'm out there all the time.
yeah.
And so he was like, all these out of towners, they always come in and get about a dozen and take home with them. I'm like,
good people.
all right,
Yeah.
share it with the world.
Absolutely.
Man, I remember, speaking of those, I went and saw Young Gravy at the state fair, and he actually tried one on stage. He's like, man, whenever I got here, he's like, I've never been to West Virginia before. He's like, tell me why I had like 12 people come to me saying I need to try a pepperoni roll. And then next thing you know, one of his crew members brings him a pepperoni roll on stage. Everybody just loses their mind. And he takes a bite of it. He's like, man, this is pretty good. He's like, I wish you guys had like some marinara dipping sauce or something like that to put it in. That would make it a lot better. But and then I'm thinking in my head itself like, then it's not a pepperoni roll.
Yeah.
It's a glorified
That would be pizza.
yeah,
That'd
it's just
be
a pizza roll.
Stromboli.
Yeah.
That was it Stromboli?
Yeah. Calzone.
Yeah, I mean, at that point. So, we're going to jump right into a conspiracy theory here. One that, I never really gave thought about it, but it is the moon landing. The lunar landing, if you will. You had a question before the podcast even started.
Yeah.
And I'll put the brakes on you. I was like, let's talk about this in just a second. What was your question before we dig into what I got written down here?
All right, so but going into this, we all already had our thoughts about it beforehand, about whether was it fake, was it real. So after digging in and researching it more, instead of just the things that you hear and see on TikTok or whatever, after researching it, do you lean more towards it being real or more towards it being fake after digging into research?
This is tough for me, and I'll tell you why this one's tough for me. Because this was one of those things that my parents are like, used to tell me all the time. I remember when this happened, because it was like, what, the
69?
Was,
wasn't it?
69.
Yeah. So, like,
Nice.
like my parents graduated in 70. So they were saying like, oh, we remember watching it and this, that, and the other. And so, like, I hate to be like, nah, it didn't happen.
I mean, that's fair.
But at the same time, I'm like, the government really do be lying,
Right? I
What
don't
about
know,
you,
man.
Andrew?
I'm kind of on the fence about it. I really don't know. But, like, if Russia's watching, we got there first. Take that, Putin.
Yeah, definitely.
Take that,
I will say this.
USSR.
I will say this about it. So, while I was researching, this just happened this morning. While I was researching it, I literally searched. This is no lie. I even took a screenshot of it. Proof that the moon landing was fake. Okay, I feel like that's a very black and white search, right? Tell me why it took me 2 or 3 pages to find something that relates to that. Everything else was just proof the moon landing's real. Proof the moon landing's real. Why is there 2 pages ahead of what I was asking for? Right. Stuff like that is what's kind of triggers a red flag to me. Like, okay, why are you suppressing it that much?
Yeah, anytime. I feel like anytime that there is extra effort to go away from what you're looking for,
Yeah.
it's because there's something to hide.
Right.
It usually
It
means
doesn't
you're
matter
closer
what
to
it
the
is. I
answers.
always feel like that.
Yeah, and that's exactly how I felt. Because, like, I literally had to go, like, 2 or 3 pages before I found something, say, like an article talking about the moon landing being faked. I'm like, okay, this isn't okay. With the exclusion of the Wikipedia article that just talks about that there are conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
So I kind of excluded that just because, but I guess for the sake of all fairness, I should put that in there in case somebody else goes to fact check me on it.
Remember, here at the basement, we have a strong catchphrase. Don't fact check us. So, here's what I got with the moon landing. Is it fact or is it fiction? Is it a sense of great pride or is it a great conspiracy? With that, let's dig in. A moon landing is the arrival of a spacecraft on the surface of the moon. Simple as that, right?
Yeah.
So you got moon landings or lunar landings. It's the same. However, the first human-made object to touch the moon, human-made, doesn't mean humans inside of it, was by the Soviet Union in 1959, the Lunar 2. That was the first thing to touch the moon, okay? The first human-made object the first crewed mission to land on the moon was July 16th, 1969. It was Apollo 11, and it was from America. With that being said, we had people on the moon first, and we beat y'all in hockey there around that same time, USSR. Take that. So, with that, in between the years of 1969 and 1972, there were 6 crewed landings between those times. The first actual precise moon landing was the Apollo 12, actually. It was November 14th, 1969. There's a lot of information there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like, at that time, at that time you had your big, huge superpowers that rose to power right after the end of World War II. You had the USSR, Soviet Union, and America. So after we put the whooping on the Nazis and the Axis powers, we got to arguing and bickering because we got all these rockets and stuff and technology from Germany, which was at that time more advanced in rocketry than us and all of us. So we got that, and we were like, hey, we're going to go to space. And Russia said, no, we're going to get there first. So that's how that kind of happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, several planned missions were canceled due to a variety of reasons, including technical issues. Apollo 1 had a fire, there were hardware delays, and there was budget limitations. So let's throw that in there. October 4th, 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1, which was an artificial satellite to orbit the Earth. This is what kicked off the initial space race. The Soviet Union, I keep saying Russia, but it was Russia, but it was the Soviet Union.
Right.
It is a bigger picture. So if I say Russia, I don't mean to. It is kind of the same, but it's not the same. But they sent out a satellite to orbit the Earth. And America was like, oh, no, man. Kennedy was like, no, we don't go to the moon now. We're going to beat you there. We said, challenge on, the true American way, right?
Yep.
Absolutely. So, we're going to dig into some conspiracy theories. I got them written down here because I can't remember them all right off. So, there were some conspiracy theories that claim that some or all the elements of the Apollo program were staged or faked. How do y'all feel about that?
I'll just be, transparent, come right out and say I lean towards it being the moon landing being faked.
Faked?
That's my side of it. I think I lean towards it being faked. I would love to assume and would like to think that it was real, but especially after researching it more and digging into it, whenever you start having more questions than answers from stuff,
right?
That's not a good sign.
Right.
But to the catch-22, I did also see some other stuff while looking it up. That's also like, well, at this point, would it have been easier to have just gone than to have faked it? Because there's a lot that goes into all of it.
Yeah.
Well, here's kind of my thing on it is, from all accounts that I've seen in pictures, we planted our flag on the moon. Mm-hmm. The whole one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind type thing.
Right.
And that's great as an American. You're like, yeah, we made it. We won the space race, baby.
That's right.
But how come it's 2025 and we haven't planted another flag?
Right. Why haven't we went back?
Exactly. I know we got the International Space Station and you can watch it live, which is really cool if you guys haven't ever done that. But anyway.
They used to have a similar camera in the ocean to where you could watch it live 24/7 for the giant squid.
Oh, that's cool.
That was cool. I don't know. That just popped in my head. Sorry.
Yeah, that's random. But anyway, I just feel like, here we are 2025 and we haven't repeated. So
Exactly.
that makes me wonder how we pulled it off in 1969.
One conspiracy theory is as simple as this. It was the space race. America, the Soviet Union shot that satellite up in space and it was successful, and we was pressured. America was pressured. We were embarrassed. We're like, how dare they beat us, We're all Americans. We got that pride. Nobody's better than us.
Yeah.
No,
we
that
feel
don't sound like us.
No, right? So it simply is maybe we just faked it because, and I'm not saying either way, I'm just going with the conspiracy theory. Maybe we faked it because we felt like we had to.
Yeah.
We had to show the Soviet Union.
So America was like, they not like us, if you will.
My biggest thing whenever it does stuff like that, I was waiting to see if Andrew was going to reply, and it didn't seem like he was going to. But my biggest thing is whenever you start looking at this, especially if you start looking at was it real, was it fake, the first thing you have to look at truly is what do we have to gain from either side of it. Mm-hmm. And what it ultimately boils down to is it's the same thing. Whether it was real, whether it was fake, we had to assert that dominance, like what you're talking about with that space race, because they had already beat us with Sputnik. They had already beat us with sending the first. They actually sent the first man into space before us, like Russia did as well. Mm-hmm. So they beat us on that front too. They had beat us with sending objects to the moon. So you mean to tell me that they beat us to all of that, but we somehow beat them with actually landing a man on the moon?
Yeah.
Well,
And
oh, my bad. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you
oh
off.
no, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay, so if we felt that pressure to like, all right, we gotta get this done, like it's gotta happen. Look at all of these space shuttle disasters that we've had since then.
Right.
I mean, we've all seen the Apollo 13 documentary.
Yeah.
We've all seen that. And then Challenger was in what, the 86, 87, something like that. And it blew up on live TV. Right. And then just, what was it, yesterday, a SpaceX rocket blew up. Didn't even make it out of the atmosphere. And I understand, like, you're dealing with rocket fuel and rocket propulsion, and it's all
There's
very
jokes
combustible.
about, it's not rocket science.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I know it's not easy.
Right.
But I almost find it hard to believe that we pulled this off in the 60s.
Well, it wasn't. Yeah, it was 69. You're right. 69.
You're talking about being like 65 years ago.
Yeah.
55, something like that. 55, sorry.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah, within 55 years, and we haven't came close. Well, we had three missions that actually landed people on the moon, if I'm not mistaken. Was it 3?
We've landed several space landcraft there also.
I think that we've had like between 69 and 72. I think that we had like actual multiple groups of people land there as well. Mm-hmm. So you mean to tell me that we could do that within like a 3-year time frame? But then now, I don't know if it's one of the things you're going to touch on later. NASA has now mysteriously lost all the original plans for that spacecraft. They have lost all original videos of it. Everything you see has been like copies of stuff.
Didn't one of their things burn down? Ain't that what happened?
Well, during that same time frame, 10 astronauts and 2 civilians died working for NASA.
Imagine that.
Also, in USSR, 8, they call them cosmonauts, 8 cosmonauts died, including the chief of the Soviet Union program during this entire time.
I'm going to argue with myself here for a second. We did get a rover to Mars.
That is true.
Which is way further away.
Yeah.
It's true.
But it's also a rover and not...
Yeah, I mean, it's unmanned, but still, it's on a whole nother planet.
But here's where it starts
getting
into
fake?
it.
Exactly.
Like, here's where you start looking at stuff, because, like, I don't know where you're going with all this, but whenever you start looking into the conspiracy theories about how, like, why everybody says it's fake, the biggest reason is I think it's Van Allen belt is what it's called, which is
radiation.
Yeah, it's like a 30,000 mile wide radiation belt.
Yep.
Okay. So, how are you going to send human beings through 30,000 miles wide, okay, of radiation? And to put that into perspective, I looked up how fast they were saying that Apollo 11 was going. it was going 25,000 miles per hour. Super fast, don't get me wrong. But you're talking about a 30,000 mile wide belt. You mean to tell me they were in radiation for an hour?
Wow.
Put that into perspective.
Wow.
If there's a 30,000 mile wide belt of radiation and they're going 25,000 miles per hour, they were literally in that for an hour and then just survived fine. To put it into perspective, that's like basically microwaving something for an hour.
All right.
Even if they are in a ship, we still struggle. Like they still struggle sending people into Chernobyl to this day. It's a different type of radiation, but still, the principle remains whenever it comes to that.
Did we cause that radiation belt?
No, that was
No,
that's a natural radiation
Oh,
belt.
okay.
Gotcha. One, just simple, competition, and that NASA faked it. Reason why they're saying NASA faked it is Kennedy didn't want the military to run this program to go to space. He wanted a civilian-based program, which is how NASA got it. NASA raised $30 billion back in the 60s for this.
That's insane.
Hold up, we need
The total cost that the American government spent was $25.4 billion.
Hold up,
In
I need to
order
get a
to do
currency
this.
converter.
I'm going to convert this to see how much this is.
Some Hollywood producer got really rich off of this.
What's his name? Was it?
Steven Spielberg.
No, it wasn't. Klunick or something like that. They're saying he is the one that
That's-
they paid to fake it.
That sounds very Russian.
Okay,
Does
so hold up, this was in
He's doing
1969.
a currency calculator real quick. So just go ahead and put 30 plus 20, so $55.4 billion.
55.
$0.4 billion in let's just put 1969. We'll see what that equates to now, dollars.
And honestly, they probably started raising that money well before then.
Oh, yeah, I guarantee.
I mean, we don't have the facts on that, though.
But why would they not want the American military to do it? Oh, man.
Maybe they wanted us to focus on other stuff. Or us, I said us. Like, maybe they
We're
wanted...
about to touch on something in a minute that they may have been focusing on.
They might have been focusing on...
I think I brought that zero. There's a lot of zeros involved in this.
You're going to have to count zeros over here.
I am. It's a
It's a lot of money.
It's going to be... I'd say it'll be $1 trillion or better.
The way it's looking right now, it's we'll just say 8 trillion.
Wow.
That's
That
insane.
much money was used. Now, they're saying that they simply raised this money to pay people off, and that's how these other astronauts was killed.
That I read that too, like the Apollo 1 mission, that it was involved in that same thing. Like
Yeah.
they, because they
It was
weren't
at
on
fire.
board.
Yeah. It burned up. And, how in the world was they able to talk back and forth?
Man, that's what my thing today. Like, if we were here right now, 2025, we got supercomputers in our pocket. Right here in Montcalm, if I need to make a phone call, I got a 50-50 chance of that working. But you mean to tell me in 1969, the president could pick up a phone in his office and talk to these guys on the moon, whenever everything at that time was still analog and not digital? Because you have to keep in mind, we hadn't sent all the satellites up the air.
President talking to him on the moon?
Yeah,
Okay,
that was a
I
big
didn't
part
know
of
that part.
That was a big part of the moon
Hey.
landing. Was Nixon was actually talking to them.
Nixon?
Kennedy, well, I thought,
No, Nixon.
was it Nixon? Anyway,
I'm pretty sure Kennedy had already
been
had his-
unalived.
Yeah,
So, which was, well, I don't want to get into that.
that's a
But-
whole nother episode.
But anyways,
We're not going to get into politics.
anyways, so wasn't he talking to the president when he said one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind?
Well, it was televised too. Like,
Yeah.
But yeah, the president was like, a part of that. And my thing is, we hadn't even had a bunch of satellites in there. So how are they relaying from the moon to the Earth, wherever everything is analog?
One of them held their arm out the window with phone line and just let it unravel as they traveled to space, and just plugged it in when they got up here.
That's it.
They was like, "Can you hear me now?" I got you one better. They had them Nextel push to talk. They was like, "Mr.
Boost
President."
move. Where are you at?
Richard Nixon was the president. I can't
Richard
remember.
Nixon. Okay. All right. So another conspiracy theory is they use this. They faked this whole entire moon landing, done this entire moon landing because what was going on in 1969 and America was involved in that was extremely unpopular, and they wanted to shift the general public away from it.
The Vietnam War.
Vietnam War.
Oh man.
America really did need a W at that time.
Yeah.
Whoa. Anyway, so they simply were saying is we used this whole moon landing because we already took an L to the Soviet Union putting a satellite up there. The Vietnam War was very, very, very unpopular at that time. We needed to shift the focus to something of great pride, and put that flag down somewhere else to show we're better. We're the best superpower in the world. Maybe that was what we needed. A kick in the butt, kind of.
Yeah.
Can we travel back in time just for a second?
Go ahead.
Okay. So we've been talking about West Virginia folklore and West Virginia this and that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
There's a good old West Virginia boy had a lot to do with trying to beat Russia to space.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, Homer Hickam.
There you
Yep.
go.
'Cause
Shout out Rocket Boys.
Yeah.
Wasn't he involved in a bunch of the Apollo missions?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. He was involved in this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Rocket Boys movie took place when Warner von Braun was trying to get Sputnik to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
So that was in the 50s, if I'm not mistaken.
It was 19 when Sputnik went. It was. I got it written down. Oh gosh, where's it at? Sputnik was that good? 1957 was when Sputnik.
Okay, so yeah, so he was in high school then, and so I think he went to college and got out of college, and I'm pretty sure he went straight to NASA.
I believe
Yeah.
so. I believe you're right. What's that movie? October Skies.
October, it was
Yeah.
a great
October
movie,
Sky?
Yeah.
great movie.
Yeah, great time. So I don't really want to stick too much on the Vietnam War. First off, thank you to everybody that served. And,
Yeah, absolutely.
mad
I should
respect.
probably clear up whenever I said we needed a W at that time. I meant politically wise. I don't mean
Yeah.
in a disrespectful way. I just wanted to clear that up because I realized after I said it that could have came out really bad.
Right.
And I don't want to offend anybody, especially the ones that did fight during that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get that cleared up real quick.
I got you. So another thing they looked at is simply just the photos and the videos were staged, and you could tell by looking at the background of the photos. They said that some of the photos were taken miles apart from each other, but the background was the exact same thing. However, you can also debunk that is there's not much terrain can change at the moon when it literally looks like dirt and rocks.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
that's true.
another thing is the quality of the photos are just way too good. However, I read, that's the conspiracy, they were just way too good. But I read something to debunk it that stated that there was thousands upon thousands of pictures taken and they selected the best looking ones. That's kind of hard, I mean, kind of like, a photographer does today. They take a bunch of pictures, but they only pick the best ones to show.
Yeah, so
can
who's taking the pictures?
I can honestly say Christina's going to argue you on that and say that a good photographer doesn't have to take 1,000 photos.
Yikes, bro.
This is in the 1950s. The cameras wasn't good.
69.
That's fair.
69, yeah.
Well, especially
60s.
wherever your light source is the sun and
That's the next thing. First off, we'll go back. They said the crosshairs on the photos are sometimes rotated or simply in the wrong place. I'm not a photographer. I don't know a lot about that. But they said that looks like the photos are messed up. It says the angles and shadows are not lining up with how the light is. Like one said, the flag, if you look at the flag, we're going to touch on it a little bit in a minute, that the entire flag was illuminated. But in reality, if you look at the shadows around it, a part of the flag should have been completely blacked out.
But also, you have to take into consideration that nowadays there's Photoshop that you can do anything you want to do with.
Exactly, that's true. And, there was identical backgrounds. And one thing I never even thought of when I looked into this, you know what we don't see in the background of these photos of the moon?
stars.
Stars.
Maybe it's cloudy, bro.
There's no atmosphere. There's no atmosphere.
I was
Well,
joking.
and go to the conspiracy theory side of it. The reason why a lot of conspiracy theorists say that the reason why there's no stars there is because the government thought about that. People are going to know that the moon was in this phase at this time. If you know astrology, you'd be able to know, well, if the moon's here and they're at this part of the moon, then you should be able to see this constellation, but you can't see it. And I don't know if they just didn't get with an astrology expert or anything, or they just mutually decided it'd just be easier to not have stars in the background.
Right.
Astrology Ain't that like horoscopes and stuff?
It's the study of the stars,
Oh. No, I'm thinking about.
like horoscopes.
Yeah, ain't that,
Well, horoscopes and astrology go hand in hand.
Yeah. One of the many tools of the devil.
Oh, wow.
That's what Bobby Boucher's mom said, remember?
Bobby Boucher's mommy. Yeah, well, she said it.
No, but I don't know about that, man. Like, I'm not an expert on constellations, but I mean, I don't know if you'd necessarily be able to see them in a picture. I mean, how good could the camera have been?
Well, that's another thing. I've watched some tests and stuff where they actually took the gloves, similar, not the same gloves that the astronauts was wearing there, and they put them in a vacuum chamber. They was moving them before, with complete normal atmosphere, normal gravity, and everything, and they was able to move the gloves.
Yeah.
But they said once they took the pressure out, which simulated the moon, they couldn't hardly move the gloves. So they were like, well, how was they taking pictures with this camera if you can't really move your hands? So, of course, there's a rebuttal to that also. They stated that they fitted this camera to be attached to the suit itself, and that they simply had different switches and knobs where they pushed forward to zoom in, brought it back to zoom out, and then, just clicked a big, huge button.
So what I'm hearing is it was the first GoPro.
I mean, essentially. But it said it wasn't really like looking through like that and snapping. It was more or less just turn your body, snap.
Well, I mean, and just to play devil's advocate with it, if you think about a video camera, all a video camera's doing is taking constant pictures, more or less. Like, it's literally just a constant roll of film. So you could, in theory, you look at the old theaters and stuff like that, the film for it, it's literally just slide after slide after slide after slide after slide. So, I mean, in theory, you could just easily say that, well, it was just a video camera and we went through and selected these images within the video, especially since it was televised.
When I used to work at the movie theater when I was in high school, they'd get reels. They were like that big around.
Yeah, they're monstrous.
That's what you put on the thing, and that's how you watch the movie. It would just spin. It was really cool. I know that's common knowledge, but it's just really cool to see it in person. So yeah, I get that.
So to me, the setting the camera up like that makes the story even more outlandish.
Like to say that you had all these levers and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
That's just me, though.
We go into the flag itself. So you're in outer space, no atmosphere, which means no wind, no gravitational pull, nothing to pull down, nothing to move, nothing to wave. But the flag is waving.
But can't there be windstorms on the moon? I'm pretty sure there can.
Well, I actually...
Like space storms.
And again,
I know that isn't Mars, but I don't know.
Oh,
Mars
has atmosphere.
Mars has an atmosphere, whereas the moon apparently doesn't.
True.
But so I definitely agree with that. But I did see one thing, and after I looked at some pictures, it made sense too. NASA thought about that as well whenever they were talking about planting the flag. And what they did was basically the flagpole was a giant L, okay, like this. So it went up and then across. So, and then the across part was also like firm. So that way it automatically looked like it was flying and stuff. So that helps create the illusion of the waving of the flag and stuff like that because it's permanently set out. So then it's just you're planting the flag and then it started moving whenever they planted it.
You know how much that flag cost?
I don't even want to know.
Buzz Aldrin went to a dollar store and bought that flag before they took off for $5.50.
Imagine how much that flag would be worth if somebody would have retrieved
It's
it.
probably got radiation all over it.
No, but I mean if somebody would have retrieved it.
I don't know. But yeah, it was a $5.50 flag.
If it's even there.
Didn't Buzz Aldrin recently sell something? Or I think he's dead now, but
I know he socked a dude in the face.
Yeah.
He gave me the old one too, buddy.
Yeah.
Because that dude kept accusing him of faking, and he went, wow, back up, bang.
I mean, but Buzz Aldrin's also been documented a few times saying that we didn't go.
Ooh.
There's
That I don't know.
there is video evidence of him saying we didn't go. Because
it was audio, wasn't it? Audio only?
No, video. I saw a video. I saw a video of a little girl asking him, why haven't we gone back to the moon? And he looked at her, and his response was, that's not an 8-year-old's question. He's just like, that's my question. He's just like, and I've got the answer because we never went to begin with.
Yikes.
That is awful. Maybe we did go to the moon. Let's say we did go to the moon. All right, let's play that.
Okay.
I'm not saying I believe it nor deny it. As an American, I 100% believe we went to the moon because the heck with USSR.
Woo! America.
Woo!
That's why the USSR doesn't exist anymore.
That's right. They couldn't take the pressure. We're better. Anyways, I was about to say something mean, but I'm gonna leave it alone. What was I saying?
What if we did go to
maybe
the
we
moon?
went to the moon. We got up there, and we seen something we wasn't supposed to see, and we was like, "Yo, you know what? We ain't going back." Maybe that's what.
Dude, that reminds me so much of one of my favorite memes in this world.
What was that?
Where it's like spaceship lands on the moon, astronaut walks out, his friend's watching from the space shuttle. He comes walking back, grabs a gun, says moon's haunted. And this guy, his friend on the spaceship goes, "What?" And he cocks his gun and said, "Moon's haunted," and just walks off.
Man, imagine if you were on the moon, you know, because they were there. I think they said, I read that it was like they were there for 3 days. It wasn't like
It
they
took 3 days to get there.
I meant, but they didn't just go plant the flag and leave.
No.
They spent time there because, you know, they took samples. Like, they were there for a while. And then, imagine, though, you went back to the ship to rest up for the night or something like that, and you heard a knock on the door.
Oh, nah. I'll be like, fire the engines up. I'll be flipping switches, baby.
Houston, we're coming back.
Yeah.
Houston,
So,
there's absolutely a problem right now.
Houston, I forgot the strap. We got to get out of here. Okay. So, have y'all ever heard that, y'all know the old, like, I don't know if it's really a nursery rhyme, but the story of the man in the moon? That somebody saw the shadow back when that happened, and some kid saw it and was like, "There's a man on the moon." That's probably way far out there, but I did read that.
The cat in the cradle and the silver spoon.
The boy blue and the man in the moon. Yeah,
Maybe that's what. Yeah, that's before your time.
I know the song.
It's great stuff.
But yeah, I heard that originated because some kid somewhere saw the shadow of our astronauts on the moon.
Man, I used to, when I was little, you'd look up at the moon and stuff, and it kind of reminded me of like a dinosaur, like the craters and stuff. That's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's something that has always fascinated me, just looking up at the sky at night.
Yeah.
I catch myself doing it a lot of times, just looking at the night, which there's more to that story, but I can't really share that because that's, we'll see that later.
Are we through all of your paper
Yeah,
here?
I got all the paper actually hit up on the moon landing.
So then I want to ask y'all something.
Go for it.
I want your final answer. I want your final take on it.
I got one more thing to contribute to the
okay.
discussion before we start giving final thoughts.
Go for it.
So, again, I put a lot of time researching this stuff, okay? One of the other things that I read was they were talking about Area 51. And initially the government said, well, the reason why we don't allow anybody to come to Area 51 is because that's where they were testing, their experimental aircraft and stuff like that.
Yes.
Well, they don't do it there anymore. But yet they are still so secretive about everything,
Mm-hmm.
And I get all military bases are strict and stuff like that. But I've also been to military bases and been on military bases, and I know that they have their limits. And none are to the extent of that.
Yeah.
Now, here's something else to think about. What's the terrain like out in the middle of nowhere in Nevada?
It's desert, hilly.
I'll say you're
Craters.
the best one to answer that.
Yeah, I mean,
And-
big Rocky Mountains, like, I don't mean the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you know what I mean. But, yeah, it's pretty much the moon if the moon was brown.
Well, that's another conspiracy thing that people are saying, that Area 51 also housed...
Dang, I just walked right into that one.
That's another part of the conspiracy theories, that Area 51 housed the moon landing that we know, because again, the terrain there is basically exactly how they depicted the moon to be, how it looked on camera. And it makes sense of why are we not, like the terrain was very identical to how the moon should be.
Weren't the pictures in black and white, too? Or
Yeah.
was it?
I mean, they'd
I mean,
have to be.
yeah,
in the 60s.
yeah. In the '60s, they only had black and white. They didn't have color.
I don't know, man. That was like, I think they had color TV by then.
No, not.
There's still people
Have
to
you-
this day that's got black and white TVs.
Have y'all ever saw that video where the show, like every TV station like all around the world went into color and like they would like have a different thing that was live? They'd hit the button and the color would come on. Have y'all seen those reels? Anyway, they're really cool. Off subject, but so if the pictures are black and white, then it would have been easy to do it in Nevada or somewhere like that.
Exactly.
And it also is always windy.
But to dispute that, to throw a monkey wrench in there, I've walked on sand everywhere from Texas to North Carolina to South Carolina to Virginia Beach, Claytor Lake, Virginia. I've stepped on it. I've never left a footprint in it.
But have you stepped on really soft dirt?
If you,
This
if you-
isn't. There,
Yeah.
I mean, deserts aren't like how you think about in the movies where
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
sand. It's just
Some of
really
them.
fine dirt usually, and that will leave a footprint.
the deserts in southern Arizona and southern California are like the sand dunes and stuff like
Yeah.
you see. But in Nevada, in like northern Arizona, even the Phoenix area, it is very fine dirt and you do leave prints in it.
And think about it, whenever you start looking at the footage of them coming back, for instance, you see them, you just see the ship just automatically appear and you see the parachutes. Well, I can honestly say I've been there whenever they do halo jumps, for instance,
Yeah.
okay? I was doing medical coverage at one point, and they were doing halo jumps. If I didn't have radio comms telling me they jumped, I would not have known. Because the planes are so high up that they are so quiet. And you mean to tell me we didn't have a plane? We had already dropped atomic bombs. So you mean to tell me we didn't have a plane that wouldn't have had the capabilities to hoist that thing up, have parachutes on it, release it, and then all of a sudden you just clip to the footage of them coming back into Earth's orbit? Because another dispute is, why didn't that burn all the way up? It should have been on borderline fire entering Earth's atmosphere once the gravity takes it with how much it weighed and it coming like plummeting into the Earth. So, and also, how did they so accurately get them to come back in to Earth's atmosphere right near the United States? You were talking about, again, I know it's rocket science. I know that you've got some of the smartest people in the world that are on this.
Well, it says it right here. Plain as day in NASA's information. It says the first crewed mission was July 16th, 1969. A couple months later, 5 months later, the first precise moon landing was November 14th, 1969. So if they're outright saying the precise, there was not precision in this first one. How was they so precise to come back?
Exactly.
That's good thought. That's good information.
Because, that's my biggest thing too. Like, how'd they not burn up returning into orbit? And especially you look at how small that, again, because you're talking about they're coming back into Earth's atmosphere. They're coming back through that 30,000 mile wide radiation belt. You saw how tiny that thing was that they came back in. You mean to tell me that can prevent it? But yet whenever I go to the dentist, I have to have a weighted lead vest just to get an x-ray?
It's true. It's very interesting, man. There's a lot of conspiracies to it. But like you said, when you do search, the first hit you find is it automatically says moon landing was real. This is why it's real. This is how you dispute conspiracy theories. Why they put that much effort into it, but yet you look up anything else and it automatically shows the conspiracy theories right off the bat. Interesting take. I don't know what to think. I would like to think it's real.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll agree on that. I would absolutely like to think it's real.
I'm probably, if I had to give like an answer, like percentage wise, I'd probably say I'm like 75% it happened. 25% I don't know. I can't tell you. I don't know.
Well, it's like I said in the beginning of the video. I hate to think that something that was such a big deal in my parents' young life,
Right.
is fake. It's not just a big. It was a bigger deal for them because they were alive during that time.
Right.
But it's a big deal to every American, or
Yeah, it
or
is.
most Americans.
This is going to be kind of not really hot, kind of a bad way. It's like that. Their moon landing is similar to when we was growing up, the terrorist attacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
it's that
with
monumental.
with them, people that age, they get offended by that. Whereas, example, when we start seeing me and you was sitting beside each other in algebra class, honors. How that happened, we don't know. But
That's another
We
conspiracy
sat-
theory.
Yeah, another
episode.
conspiracy theory. But we sat there and watched the plane hit the second tower, and now there's people disputing that, and that makes me so mad.
Yeah.
So I can see why older generations are like, don't even know. Why are you questioning that?
It's like one of those things. Like we remember exactly what we were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My parents remember exactly what they were doing when the moon landing happened.
And I hated to compare those two because it's
Yeah.
but terrible.
Yeah, one's a great feat and the other one's a terrible day. You know,
Exactly.
But both left their marks on American history.
that's very true. But man, I don't know. I might have to quote a California rock band here.
What was that?
Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Red Hot Chili Peppers.
They ain't never lied.
Never lie. Don't fact check them.
What was it that George Bush said? There's a great saying in Tennessee. I know it's in Texas, maybe in Tennessee, but you fool me once,
Shame on you.
shame
Shame
on you.
You
Fool
fool
me.
me.
Twice.
Can't be fooled again. George W. He gonna find Katrina and we gonna bring her to justice. With that being said, how do y'all feel about the moon landing so far? The episode, where y'all at with that?
I mean, I still think. I'm convinced it's fake.
Convinced it's fake?
I'm 50-50 on
I
it.
just see it being that we could not afford to lose that. And let's be real. Look at American history. We have proven time and time again we do not like to lose. We will go to whatever extent possible to make sure we win.
I will admit that if it wasn't something so big for us, that I would probably be all in on it being fake. But I am biased on this. So I'm going to call it 50-50.
Not only that, like I said, with the USSR, we beat you to the moon, we beat you on the hockey, and we beat you less than as a country. So with that being said, this is the basement where it's top level content from the lower level. I hope y'all enjoyed this. We're about to knock out an interview, and then we're going to talk about just kicking it with the basement. Thank you guys.
Take it easy.
Take it easy.